going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and Ubisoft just wrapped up their E3 2017 press conference a couple of minutes ago, so I wanted to give you guys a recap of everything that you missed, or at least the highlights of the show, so that you would know what went on, because to be honest, this one completely and totally took me by surprise. I was not expecting this to be a good show. I mean, Aisha Tyler's gone, I don't have any kind of entertainment to keep me going during the show, I just thought it was going to be a drag, but this one really did kind of take the cake, and it's probably my favorite show of E3 so far. So, kicking off the show, we had Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which was leaked a couple of weeks back, and it's pretty much a turn-based strategy adventure game. I don't know, that's what they said at the show, but it looks actually a whole lot better than I thought it would, and it's going to be coming to a Switch near you on August the 29th of this year. Now, this game is not one that I expected to be blown away by. It was leaked a couple of days ago, I saw it, I thought, why? You know, just why? But then after seeing some gameplay of it, here I am slightly impressed with it. Pretty much it plays like the Banner Saga as far as the core gameplay combat mechanics go, but there are also adventure elements mixed in there to give it that Mario game kind of flair, and so really it is a mix between Rabbids and Mario, and then a little bit of turn-based Banner Saga, if you will, thrown in there, and it actually looks pretty cool, and I'm kind of excited to see how it fares this August. After that, we saw The Crew 2, which is coming out in 2018, and it pretty much is what you would expect. It does have racing in it, and you actually follow a character from the very beginning of his career all the way through until he is a professional at whatever sport he may be participating in, but that is your key point here. There are multiple versions of racing that are present within the game. You have boats, you have planes, you have dirt bikes, you have racing cars, you have street racing cars. There are a lot of different vehicles you can choose to rise a character through the ranks in, and that's actually where the entire game really is going to have its appeal whenever you're putting it up against things like Forza Horizon 3, the Forza Motorsport series itself, Gran Turismo. There has to be something that's really defining there, and I think the main competition for this game is going to be Need for Speed Payback. Now, it is coming out in 2018, so there is enough time for it to kind of stretch its legs, let Need for Speed come out and be whatever it is going to be, and then come in and really sweep people off their feet. But just by looking at the gameplay and the trailer that was shown off, I am sincerely excited about The Crew 2, because it is building on what the original Crew laid down, but it is taking into consideration what the audience had to say about the first one and trying to make some improvements in the second one, so really you can't fault anyone for that. After that, we saw more of South Park: The Fractured But Whole, and it is coming out on October the 17th. And to be honest, there's an entirely new trailer that I'm playing right here. It's just as good as the other trailers that we've seen. The gameplay is just as good as the other gameplay we have seen. The more they put off this game, I swear, the better it gets. And to be honest, that's the way that it should be. So I'm excited to see how this one fares whenever it comes out later this year. Then we saw an interesting game by the name of Transference, but it's not really a game, more so than a VR experience. If you've ever seen the show Black Mirror, there is an episode that kind of explores the same kind of idea where the game itself is part of a game overall, so that whenever the player actually stops playing the game, you continue thinking about it in the real world, and it kind of messes with your mind. And it is that kind of experience. Pretty much the way I can describe how they described it in the show is that the person playing the game is kind of injected with these recorded memories that overwrite the memories that they actually have as a person. It seems, in my opinion, to be more of a VR experiment more so than a game, but I guess you could sort of call it a game. It's a really interesting project from Ubisoft, and I am excited to see where it goes, because it is coming out in the spring of 2018, so I am sure we are going to be seeing more of this thing between now and then, because you can't just release this game and expect people to pick it up, because it is very weird. After that, we saw a game called Skull and Bones, and it's coming out in the fall of 2018, and I am incredibly excited about this one because it pretty much is from the team that made the sailing elements of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Back in the day, whenever I was a kid, I would play Sly 3, and there was a certain part of that game where it was a pirate level, and pretty much you could sail around and you could sink other ships and you could pillage whatever loot they had and then bring it back to your ship, and now it's pretty much a big part of the game for that specific level. Now, whenever Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag came out, I transferred that childhood love that I developed in the third Sly game, and I brought it into that game, and I still loved pillaging as Edward Kenway. Now, going into Skull and Bones, I'm getting that same same kind of vibe. You are sinking ships, you are going 5v5 online, sinking other players' ships and trying to get as much gold as possible. This is truly the first pirate sailing game experience that I think could actually work. Now, I will say that the gameplay that was shown is pre-alpha gameplay, so I'm sure it is going to be a bit polished up, and I do wish that there was some on-deck combat going on in the same way that we had some in the 4th Assassin's Creed game, but with that being taken into account, I can't ask for much more because this is, quite honestly, a nitty-gritty pirate game. I just wish they had chosen a better name. After that, we saw Starlink Battle for Atlas that's coming out in 2018, and this is the new Toys to Life game coming from Ubisoft that is relatively interesting, and it is compatible with the Nintendo Switch. But pretty much the way it works is that you can collect these ships and you can change physical and both digital parts to customize your ship in any way, shape, and form, and you can pretty much explore the galaxy as you would expect. So it's going to be one of those Skylanders-esque experiences where you are constantly collecting new figures to use within the game, and it's just going to be a giant money pit for collectors and children. And to top that all off, we also saw a South Park Phone Destroyer game that pretty much looks like the Stick of Truth on mobile, but instead of the kind of combat you get from the Stick of Truth, it's actually done through what appears to be a card system at the bottom of the screen. The press conference overall was relatively vague about the entire thing, but I am sure we will be hearing more about this over the course of the next couple of weeks, as I am sure it is gearing up for launch, though there was no release date given as far as I could see. Then we saw some more Far Cry 5, which it's just more Far Cry. However, we did see some more elements of the gameplay revealed, as well as gameplay in and of itself, and man, it does look to be pretty solid, though it really is just still Far Cry. Pretty much you are going to be working with guns for hire, whether they be NPCs within the game, or your friends that you play with online, or random people that you play with online. That's pretty much how the game is going to go. Of course, there is no kind of forced co-op or anything like that. You can play entirely through it in a single-player fashion, but it is nice to know that you can also play through the entire campaign cooperatively with a friend. But like I said, as far as the gameplay goes, I was kind of hoping for more. It seems to be just more of the same kind of Far Cry experience. Not that that's bad, I'm just saying eventually it's going to get just a little bit stale. However, I am falling in love with this setting and this cast more and more every time we hear more about this game. And to top off the entire press conference, we finally got a confirmation as well as a beautiful cinematic trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now, there was no release date given for this one, as there should not be, because we have gotten our hopes up many times over the course of the past 15 years since the original one was released, so there's no need to do that again. So a couple of details here. This is a prequel. This is before Jade was born. This is an entirely new cast of characters set in an entirely different part of the universe, which I feel is the best way to do things, because to be quite honest, you have an entire new generation of gamers that has never even heard of Beyond Good and Evil. So if you make a story that's continuing off of what you built with the first game, no one is going to care and it's not going to sell as well as it would if you went ahead and made a prequel, so that's good on their part. But this new cast is journeying to System 3, which is pretty much the center of trade in the entirety of the Milky Way galaxy, and so there you will begin to develop the story and pretty much figure out what is going on in the world of Beyond Good and Evil 2. Will we see the birth of Jade towards the end? Will this be a complete and total standalone story? And will we see Beyond Good and Evil 3? I don't know, but I guarantee you we're probably not going to be seeing this game until fall 2019, and then that will get delayed until spring 2020 at the earliest. And that pretty much wrapped it up for the Ubisoft press conference. There were a couple of other things worth mentioning. You have some Steep DLC coming out, which is pretty cool. You have a new Just Dance game where some attractive woman came out and sang on stage with a whole bunch of different varieties of music and dancers performing on stage alongside of her. But pretty much what I mentioned here is what you missed at the press conference. So if you enjoyed this, please drop me a like down below. And if you happen to be new here, I have been uploading new E3 content throughout the weekend, and I plan to do so throughout the rest of the week as more news rolls down the pipe. But of course, later on tonight, we are going to be talking about the Sony press conference, so you can join me live on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/blackcoffeetv if you are interested in hanging out with me then. But as for right now, I will talk to you later on tonight. Peace.